Welcome to Being That Woman, the podcast where you stop waiting to create the love, life, and freedom you've been craving. I'm Anna Christina, and this is where you become that woman. Hello, and welcome back to my podcast, Being That Woman. If you were to call episode number 1, then you'll know that this is a 2-part series. And in episode 1, I covered all about the start of my journey, why I've created this podcast. And, I went really deep on the childhood wounds that I carried further into my 20s and then early 30s, and then led me on this epic journey of self-discovery, self-devotion, self-love, and really becoming the woman that really goes after what I want and living my life uniquely for me and the way in which I want to design it. You can't design your life if you're holding limiting beliefs about yourself and fears, and you don't know who you are in the world and you don't feel safe and secure. And episode number 1 covers exactly where my deepest wound, the story of I'm not good enough and I'm difficult, it really cover where that came from and then how it translated into other areas of my life. So go and check that episode out. This episode, however, is about that breakup. Yes, at 29, I had a huge catalyst and invitation for change by way of an experience with a man. And honestly, it was the breakup that led to a breakdown that led to my breakthrough and has honestly been the biggest catalyst so far in my life. I've had a few big moments and catalysts in my life, but this one in particular was the one that really set off the rest of my life. So firstly, I just really want to share I'm not here to blame anyone. I'm not going to shame my ex. I'm not going to shame men. I'm really here to be that woman that takes self-responsibility and ownership, and now is a big believer that anyone and anything in our life, I believe, is an invitation, and we've co-signed an agreement that there is something here for us to learn from, for us to grow from us to build upon, and to just really get back to the truth of who we are. Powerful women that have a voice and have standards and can honor our boundaries. We've just lost the muscle of being able to do that because of society, because of family dynamics, because of the magazines and the movies and all the things that we're told that we have to be in order to be a perfect, valuable, worthy woman in the world. And it can really create a lot of disconnect and confusion, especially if underneath the surface, we're holding limitations about ourselves that essentially are bumping up against what we actually want for ourselves in this life. So I'm just going to go straight in. And firstly, I'm just going to share, if you've been following me on Instagram for quite some time, you'll know that I have been on the journey of speaking my truth. Integrity and honesty is one of my highest values, and I'm always practicing how I can be more honest and more in integrity. And it is a practice, and there's obviously layers to it, like a Tetris game. This podcast, and not just this episode, but I'm going to try and bring as much truth as my capacity will allow me in each and every single episode. So you're probably going to hear things on this podcast that you've never heard before. And today's episode is exactly that. So I'm just going to rewind back to the beginning when I first met my ex. I'm going to call him Mr. DJ. I'm going to keep his name confidential. And I met first Mr. DJ in Sonar, and I'd already heard of his name a lot before. And I'm like, oh, Mr. DJ, Mr. DJ, Mr. DJ. And every single time I heard his name, I got really curious because I had a physical kind of like sparky kind of experience in my body. And it just kind of left a bit of a note on my mind of like, I wonder what that is. Why do I keep hearing his name? Why am I so interested every single time someone brings up Mr. DJ's name? And when we actually met, there was definitely something, an energy, an energetic that I had towards him. I don't know if the same is true for him. I can't remember if we actually had this conversation when we got together. But I do remember having this attraction to him. He was very charismatic. He definitely had a persona around him. He definitely had something about him that to me was interesting and to me was leaving my mind curious. And I remember him asking me quite a lot of questions, and I love a guy that asks questions and is curious about you and doesn't just ask boring questions like, oh, so where did you grow up? Just really intriguing questions. And that's actually part of my standards pack now, my list of standards for men. And he was definitely ticking that box. He was curious, he was interested, he was kind, he was complimentary. He was definitely a charmer, I would say. We quickly became friends, and I remember one specific night when we were partying in East London, and sometimes these parties would last the whole weekend. I remember this one specific time where every interaction that night, we would always just end up drawn back to each other. And I can even see now like the journey of the experience with him and how it was always unfolding, and it's like a jigsaw puzzle. I just remember feeling very safe around him, very liked and seen and validated, and just really beautifully met by him. Of course, we were friends, and there was this chemistry. There was definitely a chemistry on my side, and later I realized there was a chemistry on his side, but there was no communication of, hey, I like you more than a friend. So it makes for a very interesting and also complex experience when you have that with someone. There was times when we'd be partying and I could feel the flirt. When you just feel the flirt, you just know there's flirt because someone's following you around. Someone's always like making like little compliments to you. They always want to be around you, and they always get in your taxi when you go in somewhere. If there's a group taxi, you can feel it. It's undeniable, right? That was very much our scenario for quite some time. And then one day, I remember I was living in this really small, tiny little room on top of like this 5-story house on Wentworth Street in Brick Lane, like noisy as fuck, crazy as fuck. And I remember I was getting ready to go out. We were going out somewhere, the group of us, and he messaged me and asked, hey, do you want to meet up for a pre-drink, just me and you? And the minute I received that message, it felt to me like a date, but it felt like something different because we'd never done a separate kind of side drinky thing before. I remember just feeling like an immediate yes in myself. And of course I said yes. I honored my yes and followed through. And then we met at this pub in Camden. And I can't remember anything about this date other than we went outside for a cigarette. I was smoking at the time. Just out of nowhere, we started kissing. And I will never forget it because the kiss was it was one of those kisses, very passionate, very deep, very intense, very loving. Very like, oh, finally moments, And of course, like the me today would be like, oh, naturally that's just going to fall into a relationship. Nope. No, it didn't. It landed into something that I didn't really fully understand at the time, which is friends with benefits. I never kind of got the concept of friends with benefits until after that experience with him. I'd always been either single, dating, or in a relationship with someone. It was very clean, very simple to me. That's just how life works. That's how relationships work. I didn't understand the in-betweens and the complexities. Anyway, we start being friends with benefits. Everyone kind of knows. Everyone can feel the flirt. Oh, them two are always together. Them two are always this. She likes him. He likes her. But no one was saying anything. People were saying it to me on the sidelines. And I would be like, no. I would be playing the cool girl. No, we're just friends, we're just mates. We would never. But really, underneath, there was a yearning and there was a desire for that. But I wasn't that kind of woman that would own that. I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have the muscle of being that woman, being that unapologetic in what she wants and who she wants. We played the friends with benefits for quite some time, and it got messy. Because obviously, as you can imagine, as relationship evolves, as intimacy evolves and physical experiences evolve, there's going to be a connection there that you want some safety around. And the minute that anything's going to erupt that, like other women or other men, it's just a recipe for disaster. And there was a lot of that. So we would be friends with benefits, but he'd be dating other people. We'd be friends with benefits, but he'd be flirting with my friends. We'd be friends with benefits, but he would be 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and it would feel like just a weekend thing. And I didn't realize it back then, but Anna was settling. Anna was settling for breadcrumbs because she was starving for love and connection. And she saw this man that she really, really loved and adored. And it was better than nothing. Because, of course, underneath the scene, I'm holding this belief in this story of I'm not good enough. I was the difficult one. So I need to be cool girl easy. And I need to just accept whatever he's giving me, because underneath is like, oh my God, at least he's accepting me at the weekends. At least he's accepting me in some kind of capacity. But eventually the resentment built up, the frustration built up, the pain started building, the fear and the anxiety and the confusion and the conflict in my own mind started just building up. And eventually he slept with the woman, the girl that I was living with. And that for me was the straw in the camel's back. I remember I was in this pub in East London with one of my friends who I was partying at the time, and she was the one that told me, and we were in the pub toilets of the Talbot, one of my favorite East London pubs. Absolutely love it. And we'd had quite a few to drink, and it slipped out. You know that he slept with, I don't remember much. I remember needing a drink. I remember getting very drunk. I remember waking up in the morning and seeing text messages from him and her. So I'd obviously drunk text them. And I remember just feeling defeated. I remember feeling extremely bruised and hurt. And I remember feeling done. I remember feeling so done. And we'd arranged a big group trip to India. And I remember messaging two of my girlfriends saying, we can't go with Mr. DJ and his friends. We can't meet up with them. This is what's happened. I'm going to go on my own. Otherwise, I'd obviously love for you to both join me, but I don't want you to choose sides. Because by this point, everyone was, in each other's stuff. Everyone's friends with friends, each other's friends. And they were like, no, babe, we got you. And I started that journey in India in so much pain. And there's something that India does. I don't know if you've ever been to India, but it's such a dropped in deep place. It has an energy about it that feels like it's holding you. And I also remember that I'd had a Band-Aid on as well. I can't remember exactly what I did, but I did something where I was in a Band-Aid. So I was in a Band-Aid. I was heartbroken, and I was in India with two of my really good friends, and I knew that he was going to be there. I knew there was a possibility that we would bump into each other, and it was just really healing for me, and I really began to feel like I was getting somewhere. And I'd met a guy called Ashley, and I was hanging out with him, and then Mr. DJ showed up, and I remember just feeling nothing. I remember just not being able to even make eye contact with him. I remember him coming to dinner one night and inviting himself to the group of people that I was sat with, and thinking that he could talk to me like nothing had happened. And that actually infuriated me even more, because it's almost like he'd blocked out the whole painful experience that I'd put on the table of like, that wasn't cool what you did. It's not okay. This hurt. And I actually even at that point had admitted to him that I'd known about what he did with my flatmate, that I had feelings for him, and I couldn't be a friend of his anymore, and I couldn't be around him anymore. And he couldn't even apologize even after I'd said that. And then for him to come to the table in this place, I think it was Cocktails and Dreams on Goa Beach, and say, hey, Anna, as if nothing had happened. I mean, that infuriated me. And that was the point where I was like, well, you know what? I don't actually need to even talk to you. And I just blindly ignored him in front of everyone. And then I went on a date with Ashley because I was meeting up with Ashley. So I was like, I've met someone new, screw you. Just kind of went along with the rest of the trip there in Goa and healing. And I was having a great time with Ashley, but I was just feeling also very surrendered. Like I was so exhausted by the pain and the experience that I just didn't have any fight in me anymore towards him. And on the last day in Goa, we kind of bumped into each other on the beach. I remember him then saying sorry to me. And I really felt the apology, really deeply felt it. And I actually even apologized back to him for not speaking my truth, for not telling him sooner how I felt, being a yes to the casual friends with benefits when really I was a no, and just available for bygones to be bygones, but the clear, this is it now, let's just leave this peacefully and amicably, because we'd had a lot of conflict even before that incident that he had with my ex-friend. There was already a lot of turbulent kind of experience in between me and him. And I think it just got to that point where we were both tired. Anyway, I was leaving for Rajasthan in the morning. Ashley was planning on coming up to Rajasthan. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't know at this point if he was going to actually join us. So me and my friends left to Rajasthan. And little did I know that then Ashley decided to come and follow us. And then the next day I got a text from Mr. DJ that basically said, I'm coming up to Rajasthan to see you. I need to speak to you. So at this point, I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? I've got this guy here already literally just arrived. I've got another guy here who's the guy that I've been in love with for so long, basically saying he's going to get on a plane. And eventually I just had to take some space from Ashley because I needed to close whatever this was. And Mr. DJ turned up. Ashley had gone by this point, and he basically just poured his heart out to me and said that he wanted to give it a go and that he was sorry. And, he explained a lot of why he acted the way in which he did. And I'm just going to leave that as completely private because that's not my story. That's his experience. That's his past. And we got together. And at that point, I thought it would be a fairy tale. I thought everything would just from here on out, we'd ride off into the sunset. We'd get married, have children, all of the things. Because, of course, if you've made it that far through that much pain, then surely there's not any more. I was wrong. The relationship ended up being extremely toxic because I couldn't forgive what had happened. And what I didn't realize was me saying yes to him and him being a mirror who stood in proxy for my dad and all of the wounds that I'd carried since I was a child, and that him being there and him being naturally him, that it would just bring everything up to the surface. And I was having a release of all of this trauma and all of this stress and, a PTSD of all of my inner childhood wounds that I never really fully understood or expressed or healed or could even compartmentalize at the time because I didn't have co-regulation with my humans. So then his co-regulation created all of this unsafety within me that left me completely dysregulated and really just not really fully understanding what the hell was going on. I felt crazy. I felt like I was going out of my mind. And in all due respect to him, that first part of the relationship, he was very much a great space and held space for me. And I don't think that he even really understood what was going on and why we were so in so much conflict. And his stuff was coming up as well. So there was just so much fight between us, and then we'd fight, repair. But there was no kind of like middle grounding of really understanding. And I'm going to speak for myself of what really was going on for me. Why was I really flaring up all the time? Why was I reactive? Why did I have a 3-day argument with him about a lawnmower? And I genuinely thought it was about the lawnmower and that the grass needed cutting. No, it wasn't. There was something underneath the scenes that I couldn't touch, that I couldn't forgive. And it wasn't even forgiving him. It was forgiving my dad. It was forgiving my parents. It was being able to connect with that younger part of me that was in so much fear and pain and sadness. And it just created this connection that felt so live wire, where one minute it would be great and the next minute it would be absolutely traumatizing. And of course, if you're having an experience like that with someone, you can't leave because you love this person, you wanted this person for so long. And that was definitely my experiences. Like, I waited so long for him, and I do love him, and we do have a connection because things were great. But then the opposite flip side to that was, this is really fucking painful. And this is really, like, when we're bad, we're really bad. When we're good, we're like amazing. And so this part keeps you staying, and this part wants you to leave immediately. And that back and forth type experience was so exhausting. And he became the villain of my story, which was a really, really great place for him to be if I wanted to play victim. If I'm used to being difficult, if I'm used to not being good enough, and that story was so deep within me, of course I'm the victim, and of course he's the villain. And I'm always looking for a hero. So he's trying to be I'm trying to see him as my hero one minute and then my villain the next. And I'm all the while, I'm just being like, hey, here's my power, here's my worth, here's my self-love, here's my self-trust, here's my self-confidence, here's everything I know that I truly am deep, deep, deep beneath the scenes and the seals of my soul. But here you go. You have that power. And what you think of me and what you say and what you do is basically going to give me the green light to say I'm worthy and I'm good enough and I'm a powerful woman. So all the while, I'm just literally handing him the keys to my own queendom. And I didn't see that until the breakdown that led to the breakthrough. And after our whole experience of a traumatizing, toxic relationship that had so many good parts and so many bad parts, I decided to walk away. And it took a lot. It was painful to walk away. It wasn't easy to walk away. It took every single exhausted cell in my body to walk away. And at that point, I'd been made redundant. If you caught episode 1, you would have heard that this would have happened. And I'd had to move out of my apartment. I'd just bought my first apartment in London, and I'd been made redundant, so I moved in with him. But then, very fast forward, we broke up. So then all of a sudden, I was jobless, I was homeless, I was boyfriendless, and I was sleeping on my friend's floor because it was more comfortable than her sofa in this high-rise ex-council place in Bethnal Green. And I'm 29, almost 30, and I'm like, what is this life? But I had to walk away. I had to walk away from that pain and the hurt and the fact that I didn't have the capacity to move on and forgive him. And I knew that the lifestyle with him, with the drinking and the DJ party-esque, I knew that that wasn't serving me. I knew that it was killing me. And walking away wasn't easy, but staying would have been so much more painful and harder. And that's the point where everything started to change for me. I went to South America for 6 months. I moved back to Manchester. I got away from London. But then I moved back to London for a stint and realized it really wasn't for me. Betsy came into my world and was really everything I didn't know that I needed and my inner child needed. And honestly, from that standpoint, I started really, really looking at me. Not at the men, not at the outside world, not at my career. I really started looking at me. Like, who am I? What do I want? What do I need? What am I to stand for? What kind of woman do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to live? And can I be so much of a yes to myself for that? Now, quick add-on story. We had a 6-month relationship. The walk away was not easy. It wasn't easy for him. It wasn't easy for me. And I remember this one distinct moment where I walked into the toilets of my office that I was working at in Manchester. And we'd just had another argument. And he'd admitted to me that there was more women than just the flatmate. And at that point, I went and walked into this toilet and I was feeling something. I don't know what it was I was feeling, but there was something that I was feeling. And I remember just looking straight into the mirror and saying, Anna, do you not love yourself enough that you will let this person continue to treat you this way? And I don't know what, I mean, thankfully there was no one in the toilets, because you imagine how batshit crazy and just wild that would sound for someone to hear someone say to themselves in the mirror. And I don't know, but that powerful declaration to myself did something to me, because my life has never been the same since. It's like I walked into that bathroom, one woman, and walked out another. And I didn't realize this until I went really deep into the work that I've been in, nervous system, somatics, inner child, parts work, all of the things. I didn't realize until quite a few years later that actually when I was looking in the mirror, I wasn't talking about him. I was talking about myself, because I'd said yes. I'd said yes to the friends with benefits. I said yes to him coming up to Rajasthan. I said yes to him saying that he wanted a relationship. I said yes to the argument about the lawnmower. I said yes to the constant late nights and the partying. I said yes to staying with him. I had said yes to it all. And if I said yes, it also means that I could start saying no. No to what was no longer serving me. No to any type of behavior that isn't in alignment with the type of woman that I was destined to be and how I wanted to be treated. This particular episode of the podcast is really for me to just highlight that I got to be that woman. I was being that woman, brave enough, courageous enough to walk away from something that really, really was so deeply connected in my heart, but I knew in my soul that it wasn't meant for me, that the lesson was for me to learn how to walk away, and all of the other richness that I got to experience in the wound and the journey, the catalyst that it became. So as we close out this episode, I just really want to bring you to a question of, is there something or someone in your life right now that you know, that person or that experience, maybe it's a job, maybe it's a location, maybe it is a lifestyle, partying, whatever, that you know has basically met its expiry date, but you have to be the woman that walks away, and you get to be that woman. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would absolutely adore it if you would share it on your socials and tag me. I am Anna Christina. And of course, if it penetrated your heart and there was something in this story and my share that has really, really inspired you, then I would love a 5-star review.